Heading into the 2024 NFL season, many people would consider the Carolina Panthers running back room to be full of talent, while that same group of people would probably also tell you that it's also a little crowded. So in this video, we're going to discuss just who are the running backs occupying that room and how I expect for those reps to be divvied up amongst the guys that are on the roster, and we are going to get into all of that right after this.
I'm from the foe. You dig?
Welcome to The Way I See It with Jamario Rashad. This is a Carolina Panthers fan channel. Please do me a favor by hitting the like button, and please make sure you subscribe as I am on my road to 3K. Trying to make sure my channel continues to grow before we get into these games next season. Now that that's out of the way, let's go ahead and get to the video. So let's go ahead and start this discussion off by talking about who is the newest and most exciting addition to the Carolina Panthers running back room, that backfield that already is occupied by a few veterans. The newest guy in that room would be none other than our second round pick, the very first running back taken in the draft this year, in running back Jonathon Brooks from the Texas Longhorns. Jonathon Brooks was drafted 49th overall in the second round, as I mentioned, from the almost dynamic, well, not even almost, the very dynamic Texas Longhorn offense that had two of their wide receivers get drafted this season, as well as a tight end who was also a Carolina Panther in Jatavian Sanders. Jonathon Brooks was the running back in that backfield, making that high engine motor for the Texas Longhorns go, and now he is here with the Carolina Panthers. Now, one thing to note about Jonathon Brooks is that he ended his last season in college before entering the NFL draft with a torn ACL, unfortunately not being able to finish his season. So heading into this season, be it training camp, OTAs, and rookie minicamp, excuse me, all of these things, Jonathon Brooks has not yet been able to actually be a full participant. And even when he does get the opportunity to put the pads on, it is going to be a gradual increase in his workload as we see him working his way not only back into football shape, but this being the first time that he's had to work himself into NFL shape as well. So that is an expectation that I want you all to keep in mind as we discuss the running backs in this room. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning, the running back room is already relatively crowded depending on who you ask. So before we talk about how the reps will be divvied up, we also need to talk about who are the other top guys and who are the other guys that Jonathon Brooks will in fact be fighting for reps with and snaps with. So those guys are in fact Chuba Hubbard and Miles Sanders. The lead dog of those two guys being fourth-year running back Chuba Hubbard, who had a total of 1,135 all-purpose yards, over 900 rush yards, and 5 total touchdowns last season, and moving the chains 68 times, being a reliable force to keep our offense on the field. As pedestrian as it was, when Chuba Hubbard was given the ball, he was our best chance to move the ball forward down the field in those very limited opportunities that we actually had to do that. Now, the secondary guy that we have in the room is none other than Miles Sanders, who is going to be coming back for his second season here with the Carolina Panthers after a very, and I mean very, disappointing first season here after receiving the highest running back contract, the most unexpected running back contract of the previous offseason. Miles Sanders came in here and gave my Carolina Panthers 586 all-purpose yards, 432 of those being on the ground, only 1 touchdown and 32 first downs. By the middle of the season, he was relegated to the backup back, barely getting any snaps, as Chuba Hubbard was as the offense and the offensive coordinator, head coach, whomever was behind the decision, decided that Chuba Hubbard was going to be our lead guy and be our bell cow back, and that was the right decision. Even though we only won 2 games, it was just clear as day that Chuba Hubbard was absolutely the best back on the field at that time, and the best back on the roster at that time. Now that we've gone through, their stats and their production and what each of these guys were actually able to bring to the table when it comes to their offensive game for the Carolina Panthers this most previous season. One other thing that we must discuss, because yes, it is important no matter what you think. It is not all about who is the best. If it was all solely just virtuous in that way, and whoever is the best guy will be the guy that gets the snaps, you would see rosters be constructed and configured completely different ways than they are now. You have to remember that these teams not only make financial investments into these guys, they are also using that draft capital. I'll repeat that word, that draft capital as well. These guys are investing into players, and just because the calendar turns and you go to a new year, that does not mean that they are not still looking to maximize the investments that they've made in prior years. So I say all of that to say, when trying to figure out who is going to be RB1, RB2, RB3, the smart thing you could do to make an inference would be to follow the money, as the NFL has showed you time and time again. If you look at the money, teams want to justify why they are giving guys the money that they are giving them. They do not want to just openly admit that they are wrong. With that in mind, you all have to consider, between Chuba Hubbard and Miles Sanders, the Carolina Panthers have over $10 million invested into two running backs that they had they had that $10 million that it is going to cost them this season. They have that invested into two running backs that they had on the roster prior to even drafting Jonathon Brooks. So keeping that in mind, Chuba Hubbard is going into the fourth and final year of his rookie deal. This season alone, he will be making more money than he has in his 3 prior seasons, all put together. So I know that the Carolina Panthers will be looking to maximize his output and his snaps, being that this is the most money that they have ever had to allocate to him before. Keeping along that same train of thought, we move into Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders signed a 4-year deal here, which is really a 2-year deal that the Carolina Panthers will undoubtedly, more than likely, I'm saying they will find their way out of after this season, being that they will save money, save up to like $4 or $5 million in guaranteed, and just only have to eat maybe $2.5 million in dead cap next season. Miles Sanders will not be on the roster, but as he does occupy a spot this season, keep in mind, of that over $10 million that I mentioned, Miles Sanders is responsible for $7.7 million of that. The Carolina Panthers have already made a previous investment into this guy, saying that we are going to give you money now and we are going to allocate it over the future, because we still expect for this investment that we are putting into you to continue to pay off as long as we have you on our roster. Keeping that in mind, we are going to move into talking about, and I'm going to give you all my overall guess in terms of how the projections will pan out for this upcoming season. I think that it will continue to be similar to how it was last year, but Jonathon Brooks will be sprinkled in there at times, probably a lot more than just a little bit. But if I had to bet my money, I would assume that Chuba Hubbard will continue to be RB1, as you know, Dan Morgan has mentioned prior to the draft, and I believe they've continued to echo that sentiment ever since the draft, even with Jonathon Brooks. I believe Miles Sanders will be RB number 2, as the Carolina Panthers look to continue to justify giving him so much money. And I believe as Jonathon Brooks continues to progress, get back into football shape, and work his way back into proper football form after his injury, his season-ending ACL injury last season, I believe that throughout the season, he will in fact be running back 3, with the opportunity by the end of the season, depending on his output and depending on how his body is holding up, I believe that he will be able to move into that running back 2 spot. But with Miles Sanders and Chuba Hubbard, please understand that my thought process behind this is, it would be better to completely try to maximize your previous investments in these two running backs before trying to overuse your new investment that you have for the future. You should maximize the guys that might potentially be out the door after this year. You should do that and get all that you can out of those two bodies rather than piling up too many snaps and too many hits on your young guy who is coming off of an injury and who is your future investment. You have two guys on your roster who not only have you put capital into in terms of draft with Chuba Hubbard, but as I've continued to mention, $10 million in actual salary going towards these guys. So in my opinion, the Carolina Panthers will most definitely maximize what they have in Chuba Hubbard and Miles Sanders as they look to work Jonathon Brooks back in throughout the season. But the Jonathon Brooks pick, as early as it is in the second round, coming off of an injury, he is too special and too good of a commodity for the future of this team and the future of this offense to let him get out there and take hits and just do those things unnecessarily in a season that I'm pretty sure most knowledgeable and just most sensible fans will admit that we are not going to make the playoffs this year. Let Jonathon Brooks recover. Let him understand what it means to be in the NFL, and let Chuba and Miles Sanders maximize the final what I'm expecting to be the final year of their contracts. Play out that over $10 million, and just like I said, let Jonathon Brooks come up and just be the running back of the future, man. So with that being said, those are my thoughts on the Carolina Panthers' current running back situation and who I expect to be running back one moving into the 2024 season. Please leave your comments down below. Who exactly do you think will be getting the most snaps? Who will be RB1, RB2, RB3? Who do you all think will be the guy or the second guy for the Carolina Panthers? Will Jonathon Brooks get a lot more snaps than I'm expecting him to get? Do you think the Carolina Panthers didn't just draft him in the second round for no reason? They go use him. If you feel that way, man, leave your comments down in the comment section, and I'll be sure to get back to you then. But until next time, I am Jamario Rashad. This is the way I see it, and I'm out. Peace.